You're scrolling through your phone at midnight, and there it is again. Another post from someone you went to school with, standing in front of a luxury apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows. Your cousin just announced they bought their second investment property. Your old colleague is posting stories from their fourth international trip this year. And you're sitting there, calculator app open, trying to figure out if you can afford to replace your worn-out shoes this month without touching your emergency fund. And the question hits you like a freight train. What am I doing wrong? How is everyone around me living like they've won the lottery while I'm debating between name brand and generic cereal? The answer I'm about to give you is going to fundamentally change how you see every wealthy-looking person you encounter. Because what you're witnessing isn't real prosperity. It's the greatest mass delusion of modern times. And understanding it will finally let you breathe. Because here's the truth that nobody wants to admit. Almost everything you're seeing is smoke and mirrors. Not some of it, not half of it, almost all of it. And the numbers prove it in ways that should terrify anyone who's currently pretending to have money they don't actually possess. Let me take you inside the average successful-looking life and show you what's really happening behind the Instagram posts and the confident smiles. We'll start with the most universal status symbol in modern society, the place where people live. Drive through any aspirational neighborhood anywhere in the world, and your eyes take in the same scene. Well-maintained homes with fresh paint, manicured gardens, premium outdoor furniture, and designer touches that scream stability and success. But let me tell you what that picture-perfect home actually represents for most people living inside it. A financial prison with a beautiful facade. The numbers on homeownership paint a picture most would rather ignore. In desirable markets globally, a typical home now costs somewhere in the range of $400,000. And that's just the starting point in many areas. Conventional wisdom says you should put down 20%, meaning $80,000 in cash ready to hand over. We both know most people absolutely do not have that kind of money sitting around. So what actually happens? People are putting down 5%, 10%, sometimes even less if they qualify for special programs. They're financing nearly the entire purchase price, starting their homeownership journey already drowning in debt. Let's run the actual mathematics. If you're taking out a mortgage for $400,000 at interest rates hovering around 6 to 7%, common in many markets today, you're looking at a monthly payment of approximately $2,400 to $2,600 just for the principal and interest. But that's not where the costs end. Not even close. Add property taxes or local levies, which vary but can easily be several $100s monthly. Then homeowners insurance, which has been skyrocketing globally and adds another few hundred. And if you're in one of those developments with mandatory association fees, tack on another monthly charge. When you add everything together, that housing cost easily climbs to $3,000 or more, sometimes significantly more depending on location. Now let's talk about who's actually making these payments. The median full-time worker in many developed economies brings home approximately $50,000 to $60,000 annually before taxes. After taxes, healthcare, pension contributions, and other deductions vanish before the money hits your account. You're likely looking at $3,500 to $4,000 in actual take-home pay. So if your housing cost is $3,000 per month and your take-home pay is around $4,000, you're spending 75% of your actual income just keeping a roof over your head. Traditional financial advice says housing shouldn't consume more than 30% of your gross income. These people aren't slightly over that guideline. They're blowing past it by double, all while smiling for photos in front of their beautiful home and posting about being blessed. This is what I call being house rich and cash poor. Except most aren't even rich in home equity because they put almost nothing down and are paying mostly interest in those early years. They're just poor in every direction while maintaining the appearance of having made it. Every single dollar is allocated before it arrives. No flexibility, no cushion, no margin for error. One unexpected expense, a missed paycheck, a medical bill, a major repair, and the entire house of cards collapses. But the house is only the foundation of this elaborate illusion. Now let's talk about what's sitting in that pristine driveway. Because cars might be the single most revealing indicator of someone's actual financial reality versus what they want you to believe. A shiny new vehicle parked in front of a nice home sends a very specific message. I've achieved success. I can afford the finer things. But in today's economic reality, that new car is often the clearest signal that someone is financially drowning while pretending they can swim. The average monthly payment for a new vehicle has now crossed $730 globally. And that's just the average. When you look at SUVs and premium sedans, now the default choice for millions worldwide, payments routinely exceed $1,000 every single month. And here's what makes this even more alarming. People are signing loan agreements stretching 60 to 72 months. In some markets, 84-month loans, 7 years, are becoming normalized, all for something that loses 20% of its value the moment you drive it off the lot. Let's walk through what it actually costs to own one of these vehicles everyone seems to be driving. Say you're financing a $50,000 SUV, now considered a standard family vehicle in many markets. At 7% interest over 72 months, you're paying approximately $850 per month just for the loan. But owning a car isn't just about the payment. That's only where expenses begin. Now you need comprehensive insurance, often mandatory when financing, which can easily add $150 to $250 monthly, depending on your age and location. Then fuel. Especially if you're commuting daily in an SUV, that's another $200 to $300 monthly in most urban areas. And even though it's new, you still face maintenance. Oil changes, tire rotations, eventual replacements, brake work. All of it adds up. When you total everything involved in owning and operating that vehicle, you're easily looking at $1,300 to $1,500 per month. For someone making $60,000 annually, that's over 25% of gross income going to a single car. Remember, we already established housing is eating 75% of take-home pay. Add this vehicle cost, and we're looking at a combined total of $4,300 to $4,500 monthly for just housing and transportation. That person making $60,000 annually doesn't even have that much in take-home pay. They've already spent more than they earn, and we haven't even mentioned food, utilities, internet, phone bills, or any other basic necessity. This is how people are affording their lifestyles. They're not affording anything. They're financing the appearance of wealth while living in a permanent state of financial crisis they can never acknowledge publicly, because doing so would shatter the illusion they've worked so hard to create. Now you might be thinking, surely some people have genuinely accumulated wealth over time? The answer will shock you, because wealth statistics from financial institutions worldwide reveal most people have far less than their curated online presence suggests. Data consistently shows that for adults under 35, the median net worth, including home equity, retirement accounts, savings, vehicles, everything, is approximately $30,000 to $40,000. That's the median. Half of all people in this age group have less than that. Think about what that actually means. Someone in their early 30s who appears successful, posting for nice restaurants, wearing quality clothes, driving a decent car, statistically has a total net worth of less than $40,000. Not their annual income, not their savings, their entire financial existence added together. It improves slightly with age, but not as much as you'd hope. For people aged 35 to 44, median net worth climbs to about $120,000 to $150,000. That sounds more substantial until you realize that for most homeowners in this group, nearly all of that number is tied up in home equity. Their actual liquid net worth, the cash or investments they could access in an emergency, is often a tiny fraction. They can't spend their home equity unless they sell or take on more debt. In terms of real financial flexibility, they have very little, despite what appears to be a solid net worth number. Even people in their peak earning years, 45 to 54, show a median net worth of only $200,000 to $250,000 across major economies. These are people who've worked for decades, and yet half still have less than $250,000 in total assets. The Instagram lifestyle that looks so effortless? Statistically, it's built on leverage and debt, not actual accumulated wealth. Here's another critical piece rarely discussed openly. Multi-generational living is not just normal. It's financially strategic across much of the world. In many cultures, living with family well into adulthood is common and smart. Recent surveys show approximately 1/3 of adults aged 18 to 34 live with parents or extended family in numerous societies. That's not a small anomaly. It's a massive portion of a generation, and it changes everything financially. Living with family eliminates your largest monthly expense: housing. No rent, no mortgage, no property taxes, often dramatically reduced food costs, utilities, and even transportation if vehicles are shared. For someone making $45,000 annually who lives with family, they might genuinely have $2,500 plus in completely discretionary monthly income, money they can spend on anything because survival needs are covered. With that cash flow, you can absolutely afford a $700 car payment on a luxury vehicle, weekend trips, designer clothes, nice restaurants, a lifestyle that looks incredibly affluent from the outside. Meanwhile, someone making $70,000 who pays their own rent and bills might have less discretionary income than the person making $45,000 living with family. This isn't criticism of multi-generational living. It's financially intelligent in cultures worldwide. But it creates a massively distorted comparison when you're trying to figure out how someone affords their lifestyle. You assume they must earn substantially more than you, when the reality is they're simply spending far less on basics. And you'd never know that from their social media. Then there's the invisible financial support flowing between generations, a phenomenon enormous but rarely discussed. Surveys show roughly 40 to 50% of parents with adult children provide regular financial assistance. We're not talking about birthday gifts. We're talking about covering rent, car payments, insurance premiums, groceries. The average amount? Approximately $1,000 to $1,500 monthly. So when you see someone in their late 20s driving a brand new luxury car and living in an expensive neighborhood, there's a very real possibility their parents are subsidizing a significant chunk of that lifestyle. And you would never know it from their online presence. They're certainly not announcing it publicly, but that reality completely changes how they're affording what they have. This creates what I call the invisible income effect. You're comparing your complete financial picture, which you know intimately, including all the struggles and stress, against someone else's carefully edited public presentation, which might be built on foundations you can't see. That foundation could be family support, hidden debt, side income they never mention, or simply prioritizing appearance over actual security. None of these show up in the photo of them at brunch. Let's shift to investing, another area where perception and reality wildly diverge. If you work in any professional environment globally, you'll hear people discussing portfolios, retirement accounts, market trends. It creates the impression that everyone is actively investing and building wealth through compound returns. But the statistics tell a different story. Only about 55 to 65% of adults in most developed economies own any stocks, whether directly through mutual funds or retirement accounts. That means 35 to 45% have zero exposure to equity markets. No retirement account, no brokerage account, nothing. And among those who do invest, many hold relatively small amounts. The median retirement account balance for people in their 30s is under $50,000. Not insignificant, but nowhere near the aggressive wealth building you'd assume based on how frequently people discuss investing. What you're experiencing is selection bias. The people who talk about investing are the people who have investments to talk about. Those with nothing saved aren't broadcasting that fact. So you end up in environments where it feels like everyone is financially sophisticated, while statistics show most are barely scraping by. Here's something that really illustrates how disconnected income is from actual stability. Studies show nearly 1 in 4 people earning over $100,000 annually report living paycheck to paycheck. How is that possible? Because earning a high income and building actual wealth are two completely different things. You can have a 6-figure salary and still be broke if expenses grow to match or exceed income. And for millions, that's exactly what happens. The psychological mechanism behind all this is social comparison theory. Humans are wired to evaluate their success by comparing themselves to others. The problem today? Your comparison group has exploded beyond rational boundaries. It used to be you compared yourself to neighbors, coworkers, family, people whose circumstances you actually understood. Now you're comparing yourself to everyone online. People in different economic realities, different life stages, with family wealth you don't have, and zero context for their actual situation. You're playing a game where you can't see anyone else's cards, but assume everyone has a better hand. There's also the reference group effect. If your social circle spends freely, you'll start spending more yourself. If friends lease luxury vehicles and take multiple international vacations yearly, you'll internalize that as normal. You'll feel broke even if objectively you're doing fine, because your frame of reference has been distorted. This is why lifestyle inflation is so dangerous. It's not just that people spend more as they earn more. It's that as income rises, you start comparing yourself to higher earning people, making you feel like you're falling behind even as your actual income climbs. You get a raise, start looking at pricier housing and cars, and suddenly you're back to feeling like you can't afford anything, despite earning more than ever. And yes, there absolutely are people genuinely doing well financially, but they're dramatically rarer than perception suggests. Data shows only about 8 to 10% of households earn over $200,000 annually. Only about 1% earn over $500,000. The ultra-wealthy you see online with exotic cars and multiple properties, they're statistical outliers, representing a tiny fraction of a percent of the population. You're comparing your everyday life to people in the top fraction of 1% and wondering why you can't keep up. It's like watching Olympic athletes and feeling bad because you can't run as fast. The comparison itself is fundamentally broken. There's another factor that warps perception: side income. Surveys show about 40 to 45% of people globally have income beyond their primary job. Freelancing, gig work, small businesses, online sales. Much of this goes completely unmentioned publicly. You see someone living a lifestyle that seems incompatible with their day job and assume they're drowning in debt or come from money. The reality might be they're quietly pulling in an extra $2,000 to $3,000 monthly from something they rarely discuss. That's not deception, it's privacy. But it completely distorts your understanding of what's financially normal. There's also social media time compression. Someone posts about buying a car in January, vacation photos in April, a home renovation in July. You see all this condensed into your feed over a few scrolls, and your brain interprets it as constant affluence. But in reality, they saved 2 years for that car, used credit card points for the vacation, stretched that renovation over 6 months doing most work themselves. You're seeing highlights compressed into a timeline that makes it look like non-stop luxury, when the actual lived experience was far more modest. And credit cards? They play an enormous role in maintaining financial illusions. The average person carries $5,000 to $7,000 in credit card debt globally, but many carry substantially more. It's entirely possible to fund an affluent-looking lifestyle by running up balances you can't actually pay off. And from the outside, you never know the difference. The vacation looks identical whether paid in cash or charged at 24% interest. The appearance is the same. The underlying reality is completely different. Here's what all this means for you, and this is the part that should actually make you feel better. If you're sitting there feeling like you're failing because you can't keep up with people around you, there's an extremely high probability you're doing better than you think. If you're saving anything at all, if you're staying out of high-interest debt, if you're investing even small amounts consistently, you're ahead of a massive portion of the global population. You're just not posting about it. The quiet financial victories don't get broadcast. Nobody takes a selfie celebrating paying off credit card debt or hitting a savings milestone. But those are the things that actually matter long-term, the building blocks of real security. The lifestyle you're seeing around you is often a mixture of debt, family assistance, selective timing, and careful curation. Some of it's real. A lot of it isn't. And the only person's financial situation you actually know with certainty is your own. So what do you actually do with this information? First, accept that you'll never have complete information about anyone else's money situation. And honestly, that's liberating. You're not supposed to know. Their situation is their business. Yours is yours. The comparison game is rigged because you're comparing your complete internal experience, including all the stress and trade-offs, to someone else's external projection. You cannot win that game. Second, define what success actually means for your life. Not what it looks like on social media, not what your parents think it should be, not what people you knew in school are doing. What does financial stability mean in your circumstances? For some, it's owning property. For others, it's 6 months of expenses saved. For others, it's being debt-free or having the freedom to change careers. There's no universal scorecard. The moment you start chasing someone else's definition of success is the moment you get back on that treadmill, running toward a finish line that keeps moving. Third, and this is critical, start celebrating the invisible wins. Paid off a credit card? Massive accomplishment, even though nobody sees it. Hit a savings goal? Real progress. Turned down a purchase because you knew it would derail your budget? That's discipline most people lack. These moments don't generate likes, but they compound over time into actual security. The flashy stuff, the new car, the vacation photos, those are often the opposite of what they appear. They're visible markers of money leaving your account, not building up in it. If you're constantly stressed about money, but spending to keep up appearances, you're choosing the stress. Social pressure is real, but every dollar you spend trying to look successful is a dollar you're not spending on actually becoming successful. Let's talk about the mathematics of opting out. Say you're earning $60,000 annually. You rent a modest place for $1,500 monthly instead of stretching for a $2,500 mortgage payment. You drive a reliable paid-off car instead of financing a new one for $850 monthly. Right there, you freed up over $1,800 monthly compared to someone projecting success. Over 1 year, $21,600. Over 5 years, $108,000 plus investment returns. That's a down payment. That's a career change fund. That's freedom and options. But it requires being comfortable looking less successful than you could appear in the short term. I'm not suggesting you live like a monk, never enjoy anything. That's miserable and unsustainable. But there's a huge difference between intentional spending on things that genuinely improve your quality of life versus reflexive spending to maintain an image. One builds wealth, the other destroys it. You also need to get honest about trade-offs. The person with a beautiful home might be working 70-hour weeks and never sees their family. The person with a new car might be eating cheap food daily to make the payment. The person taking exotic vacations might have zero retirement savings. Everyone is making trade-offs, everyone. The difference is most people only show you the upside and hide the downside. One more thing. If you're receiving family help, own it. There's no shame. Generational support is how financial stability has been built across cultures for centuries. The shame comes from pretending you did everything yourself when you didn't. If your parents help with a deposit, that's a gift and a huge advantage. It doesn't make you less capable. It means you had help. But when you pretend that help doesn't exist, you distort everyone else's perception of what's achievable. Here's the bottom line. The financial lives you're seeing around you are mostly illusions. Some of it's debt, some of it's help, some of it's selective presentation, and some of it is genuinely real, but even the real stuff comes with trade-offs you're not seeing. The median person is not living large. The median person is scraping by, making trade-offs, and trying to project stability even when they don't feel it internally. If you're saving anything, if you're investing anything, if you're staying out of high-interest debt, you're doing better than a huge portion of the global population. You're just not performing it, and that's fine. Financial security is quiet. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need validation. It just accumulates steadily in the background while everyone else is performing for an audience. Stop measuring your progress against someone else's highlight reel. Measure it against where you were a year ago. Are you better off now than then? That's the only comparison that matters. Everyone else is on their own timeline with their own advantages, help, debt, and stress. You'll never have the complete picture, so stop trying to compete with a mirage. The formula is simple. Spend less than you earn, invest the difference, avoid debt that doesn't build assets, repeat. It's not glamorous. It won't get you followers, but it works. And 20 years from now, while everyone else is still trying to look rich, you'll actually be building something real and substantial underneath the surface. I understand it's hard to watch people around you seemingly winning at life while you're being careful with money and making sacrifices. But here's what nobody tells you. Most of those people aren't winning anything. They're performing, and the performance is expensive, exhausting, and ultimately hollow. The next time you see someone posting from an expensive restaurant or pulling up in a vehicle that costs more than you make in a year, remember this conversation. Remember the numbers. Remember that what you're seeing is probably a carefully constructed facade built on debt, family support, or trade-offs they'll never publicly acknowledge. You're not falling behind. You're refusing to play a game designed to make you lose. The people who actually achieve financial security are the ones who figured out that nobody's keeping score except themselves. They stopped caring what their neighbor drives. They stopped trying to impress people who don't actually care about them. They got comfortable looking average while building something substantial underneath that nobody sees. That's real wealth, not the house or the car or the vacation photos. Real wealth is waking up without financial anxiety. It's having the ability to walk away from a toxic job because you have options. It's not checking your bank balance before buying groceries. That's what you're working toward. And if you're on that path, even if it's slow, even if it's boring, even if nobody notices, you're already ahead of most people. The difference is your success doesn't need an audience to be real.